Well, howdy, Schlockaholics. Welcome to the first annual Yuletide Terror-thon. This is something I came up with to sort of fill the space while Cody is getting ready to leave on his tour of the high seas. He's going out on one of those fucking cruises these fancy bastards are always doing. And we wish him luck. We might be seeing him at some point this evening, possibly some other guests if they decide to hop in. And I'm sure we'll have some of our fine friends in the chat across the platforms. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. Basically, what's going on tonight is we're going to shoot the shit about some holiday horror, and we're going to showcase, every single Christmas horror film that I could find from the 70s and the 80s. We have 12 films that we're going to showcase this evening while shooting the shit about them. Some of them will be familiar to us. Some of them will be, films that we haven't seen or films that we haven't seen in a while. Hopefully it'll lead to some good reminiscing and some discovery of some new things for everybody participating. This will run in 2 segments. The next 12 movies will drop on this Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you'd like to join us for that, you're more than welcome. Of course, I'm joined by Septum Sin from Septum Sin versus the World. How you doing, buddy?
I am prepping for the down tick to the holiday. I'm doing a little bit of holiday viewing. Well, not a little bit. I'm doing a lot of holiday viewing. But I just saw the, what was it? The new Joel Wynkoop, Phil Herman joint, I Slay on Christmas.
Right on. How was it?
Oh, it was pretty delightful. I mean, I think that if you are if you enjoy a lot of the modern Wynkoop Herman compilation type stuff that they do, you'll like this. And Joel plays an excellent demented killer with an axe. I mean, he does a great job. I can
imagine that he would, man. Definitely going to be on my list of ones to watch. See, this is going to be an annual show, as I'm sure you guys noticed from the cover photo there. This year, we're going to be covering the 70s and the 80s. Next year, we'll cover the 90s and the early 2000s. Year after that, we'll cover the 2010s and then probably work into whatever we're up to at that point. Just showcasing every fucking Christmas horror movie that we are aware of, whether we've seen it or not. I think it's a good way to burn out some content for you guys and get everybody mixing it up around this stuff. And eventually, we're going to get into a stage where we're up to date with it. And we're going to need to showcase a bunch of these like modern schlock, Christmas horror films, because there's plenty of those. This list definitely has some obscure stuff on it, but it also isn't going super deep into the DIY stuff. But that's just going to leave us, several years worth of that in the future. Future episodes after we get through the obligatory decade showcases, we'll probably just do 12 days of Christmas kind of a thing, 12 movies each year that we showcase. To keep them coming. And holiday horror is not slowing down at all. If anything, it's had a huge uptick in recent years. Very similar to the boom of holiday horror that took place in the 80s, because they were just hurting for shit to make various slasher movies about. And Christmas and, things like that seemed like a good safe bet for something everybody could relate to and enjoy. A nice body count film centered around the holidays. I guess a good question before we jump into breaking these down here, man, is what makes a good holiday horror film for you? What are some qualities you think need to be included for it to be a legitimately good holiday horror film?
Oh, I think that any type of horror, it has to be a good film for one.
Well, good is very subjective.
Good by my standard of good. Not not Jake's. I like fun. That's the word. It needs to be at least somewhat fun. It can't be boring. Right. And a lot of times, and you get into the 70s and 80s, they can be very slow, but if the payoff is worth it, it's worth it. But if it's a holiday one, it's got to be the background. The backdrop has to have that holiday feel to it. Maybe the villain could have a little holiday theming, but the backdrop, that's the most important thing. You have your strategically placed Santa Clauses, you got your icicles so that you can stab with them, maybe some ornaments that you can use as weapons, a little bit of everything,
Yeah, Santa going down on your mom, scarring her for life. More on that later. It's yeah, I agree, man. I think that for it to be a legit holiday horror film, the holiday doesn't necessarily need to be central to the plot of the film, but it needs to be central to the vibe of the film. There are some that are fun to tuck in there, and there are a couple on this list where, you know, the holiday isn't necessarily central to the plot, but they do take place during Christmas time, and Christmas is acknowledged in the films. So those are fun to have to kind of shoehorn in there just to get an extra movie for the holidays and play off the technicality. But I would agree, man. It has to have that holiday vibe, at least in the scenery, you know, or else it's just kind of a movie that happens to take place during the holiday.
Well, you know, in the olden days, one of the things that was a normal thing to do would be to sit around the tree and tell ghost stories on Christmas Eve. That was actually a legit thing back in the day. And so horror and the Christmas holiday, they actually do have a lot in common with each other. So they fit together a lot better than most people would think. I would say quite well. And if you think about it, it is a spooky season. I mean, if you go out, I mean, yes, the cheery lights are there, but let's say you go out at a different time. Let's say you go out at 2 or 3 in the morning. You have a few lights shining in the night, a couple of those things blinking off and on, and it's just that snowy landscape and nothing but the breeze. That is
sheer terrifying quietness because the snow sucks away all of the ambient sound. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's definitely very, very spooky holiday. You know, when you look past the holiday cheer aspects of it, it's kind of during that dead time of the year. Like literally everything has died off and has been covered in a layer of like nothingness until it, you know, spring forth the next spring and lives again, you know. And holiday horror films based around Christmas go back a long, long ways. You really could say that like all of the original Christmas Carol stuff is holiday horror. I mean, you know, Marley's Ghost used to scare the fuck out of me in like every single iteration of that when I was a kid. And interestingly enough, on the list that I sourced a lot of these from, Scrooge or Marley's Ghost from the UK from 1901 is actually the first Christmas horror film, I guess. So it's been going on for over 100 years. We've had Christmas horror films. They didn't really take off until the 70s, but we got some other examples of them, you know, in, you know, 1936, we got a movie called The Devil Doll. In 1940s, we got Christmas Holiday, we got The Curse of the Cat People, we got Dead of Night. You know, those are all those sort of wartime Christmas horror films that were going on. And then, you know, after that in the 60s, we got Blast of Silence in 1961, which is apparently like a Christmas thriller / I guess, sort of horror film about a hitman that goes to whack a bunch of people on Christmas. So, you know, they've been doing Christmas movies around like genres or whatever, you know, fucking horror and thriller and whatnot for a long, long time. But I think everybody would agree that the 70s is really where it kicked the fuck off. You know, we had some examples of the shit leading up to that point, but a lot of people are going to point to the 70s as the true beginning of Christmas horror because it is legitimately the true beginning of it as a trend in filmmaking. We got Gorio Rotten in the house, the Gorgonian himself. What's up, brother? He says, I agree. The background atmosphere is very important for holiday movies. A lot of them skimp on it. A lot of the ones that are even like billing themselves intentionally as Christmas movies. You know, one that's famously debated is Die Hard, which I'll always agree that it's a Christmas movie because it technically is. But, you know, it rides that line. It doesn't include the Christmas vibe as much as it could, but it includes plenty of Christmas vibe and a lot of references to Christmas. So it makes up for the fact that most of it is dudes running around with no shoes on and like explosions and shit. And that's fine.
Yeah. There's only one Christmas horror movie that I can think of that's in that 70s, 80s that's on the line that one could say it might not be. When I think of what comes to mind. but I won't hit that because you might hit that one already. But
we're gonna get to all of them. Which one is it? You know,
Tales from the Crypt, 1972.
See, that's on the line because it's not like fully a Christmas movie, is it? It includes
Not
other
fully,
holidays. It's
but the wraparound takes place during the season, and it leads off with the Santa Claus killer vignette. and
right.
And that to me is one of the classic Christmas shorts right there.
True enough.
Where you got that woman who's killed that guy, and then you got the Santa Claus killer out there. It is just to me, it's demented. It's quite there and goes very well with the film at large.
See, my reasoning for not including it was simply just because it also highlights, I believe it's Valentine's Day is the other holiday that's in there. So it's like kind of split, and it's anthology nature. You know, it's not a standalone film that focuses on Christmas. But it's Tales from the Crypt. I mean, the Tales from the Crypt Christmas episode that they kicked the actual series off with is pretty fucking dope too. Incidentally, featuring a lady. Well, I don't know if it's incidentally, it is related. It features what's her ass from Lethal Weapon, which is also another one of those Christmas movies, like Die Hard, that's sometimes debated for no real reason. It's a fucking Christmas movie. But whatever. I think Lethal Weapon actually hits all the holidays, all the major ones, doesn't it? It's got a Thanksgiving movie as well. So,
of course, Gremlins people always debate, but that one they even had the darn things singing Christmas carols at one point. So,
I don't know how you could debate Gremlins. That's
I've had people try and say that no, it has nothing to do with Christmas. I'm like, Christmas all
what
around.
What the fuck? Corey Feldman's dressed as a goddamn Christmas tree in the movie. What the fuck? He literally gets the Mogwai as a Christmas present. Don't they play It's a Wonderful Life on the fucking TV in that movie like more than once? What the hell? I don't know what those people are on. They're drinking heavier fucking whiskey than you, bro. That doesn't make any sense. I think people just debate that stuff because they want to argue about something. And at the end of the day, I'd rather people be arguing about whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie than all the other dumb shit that people argue about. At least at the end of the day, with the Die Hard argument, everybody can agree that it's a fucking kick-ass movie, whether you consider it a Christmas movie or not. See, I don't understand how it walks the line. You know, Christmas is prevalent through the whole thing. He gets the Mogwai as a Christmas present. I'm pretty sure there's a part where he has the Mogwai singing a friggin' Christmas carol or humming along to it, kind of. Or you could argue that it's like, you know, that little tune that Gizmo hums kind of has a Christmas vibe to it. There's a whole bit where they're like fighting gremlins in a toy store. You know, there's a Corey Feldman dressed as a Christmas tree. It's a Wonderful Life on the TV. The whole sequence where his mom, I think, is like baking Christmas goods and she has to slaughter all the gremlins. The dog gets wrapped up in the Christmas lights. You know, she breaks Mrs. fucking whatever that lady's like ceramic snowman. There's so much Christmas in Gremlins. So, and then the whole Santa story that Billy's like girlfriend tells him in Gremlins is one of the most bone chilling like Christmas horror sequences ever. You know, so. I got a hard disagree there, man. I think it is firmly on this side of the line when it comes to Christmas. It's definitely no Santa with muscles, though.
Oh, that's true. That's the definitive Christmas horror movie right there. Actually, there is another one that would be horrific. Some of them are horrific by without intending to be. There is a Mexican movie called Santa Claus. That is there. You may have actually seen it through Mystery Science Theater, but I believe it's a 70s film, if I am right. Nope, it is not a 70s film. It is a slight bit older, 1959, so a couple years older than the 70s.
Yeah, you know, not not by much.
But it has the freaking devil straight out attacking kids on Christmas.
I've seen
them to do evil things. I mean, that's right. there. Then Santa Claus runs a sweatshop, and he's got all the children.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying.
That's pretty.
In reality, he runs a sweatshop no matter what version of the story that you're getting. You know, those poor elves. But yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. There's holiday genre films run the gamut of being like on point or. I get that. Yeah, I get that, Gory. It's a Christmas movie, but it's also one I will watch year round, and I don't necessarily like hard lock it to the holiday. It's just a rad like family horror movie to me that also works really well during Christmas because it's a Christmas movie. So I guess there's that too, and there are certain ones like Black Christmas. I'll fucking watch that in July. I don't care. I just love the movie. And I tend to watch it at least 2 or 3 times a year if I can. So, but yeah, I think we're all on the same page. You know, there are a couple of technicalities on the larger list here. I think we only have one of them appearing on today's 12-pack, but we do have a couple of them on there that were thrown in there simply because why the fuck not? Also, I wanted to do 24 movies for like 24 days of Christmas. You know what I mean? Puts us right up to the line since we're mentioning lines. And you could, you know, you could watch all of the movies that we list on this next year as your Christmas marathon, one per day, and end up on Christmas Eve. That was kind of the way that I conceived it, and it just happened to work out that way numbers wise as well. So yeah, we got that going for us. Now, when you think of 70s Christmas horror, what's the first one that comes to mind? I mean, I think we all know the answer, but go ahead and say it for the people, Brandon.
Well, Black Christmas, but tell you the truth, Silent Night, Deadly Night came first because I've been watching it recently. But Black Christmas usually comes first.
Or you mean Silent Night, Bloody Night?
Silent Night, Bloody Night, I don't think of first.
Well, Silent Night, Deadly Night's from the 80s, my friend, and we will get to that.
70s? 70s, yeah. Then Black Christmas, because that is at the end of the 80s, at 70s.
Yeah, I mean, it's Black Christmas, it's fair to say, has stolen all the fucking limelight when it comes to 70s Christmas horror films. I don't even know that I've ever heard anybody really mention any of these other ones. I'm aware of the other ones, and I've actually seen all but the first 2 of these that we're going to cover right now. They're definitely going on my list for obvious reasons, which you guys will understand after we check them out. But our first film that actually predates Black Christmas by 2 full years, 2 full years, is from the United Kingdom, Whoever Slew Auntie Lou. This came out in 1972. It's got a pretty decent cast of people in it, some pretty crazy vibes going on there. It's based partly on the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel, and it focuses on a demented American widow living in her husband's English manor who becomes obsessed with a young orphan girl who resembles her dead daughter. So let's go ahead and check out the trailer for this real quick, and we'll see what we think. Again, I have not seen this one, but man, does it look like one that I'm going to enjoy.
Once upon a time, near a big forest, lived a woodcutter with his wife and 2 children.
When does the fairy tale become a nightmare? When does a lullaby become an unbelievable horror?
You know, there was once a little girl very like you who lived in this house.
What happened to her?
You've got Katie locked in the nursery, haven't you? Haven't you?
You better remember, and you had better understand, that if you try anything, I've got her.
We can't stay here. Aunt Rue is a witch. Now, come on.
Where does fearful illusion end and frightful reality begin? What terrors lay waiting in winding corridors and shadowed corners? What devil stalks the darkness?
You children don't want to leave here. You have a home now, forever.
Whoever slew Auntie Roo? Whoever slew Auntie Roo?
See, that just has killer vibes, in my opinion. It looks like if you took one of those old fucked up live action Disney movies, you know, some of those like skirted horror, or there was that one that was just outright a horror film. But if you took that and mixed it with like Stuart Gordon's Dolls, I think that's kind of what you get there. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of influence on Stuart Gordon for stuff like Dolls. From whoever slew Auntie Roo. You gotta love how they dumbed down the title for us Americans on that poster too.
What year was that?
That is from 1972. Whoever slew Auntie Roo.
That's one of the things I like when you go into an early part of a decade. You get to see kind of how things are evolving because you can see the heavy 60s. That's a 60s haunted house movie right there. At 100%. The basis, and but you can also see a little bit of that 70s camp edging its way in.
Yeah, slight bit of that fucking like sort of sleazeness in there too. I noticed in the credits there's a guy called the Pig Man. When you know there's like a pig man in your movie, I'm sure he's not a literal pig, but you know, he's gonna be gross. I guess that's what I'm getting at. So. Yeah, it does have a very 60s vibe to it though, almost like a slight, like I said, like a Mary Poppins kind of a thing or whatever. It's got, but like a twisted sort of fucked up orphan staying with their aunt kind of a story, if she's even really their aunt at all, or if she's just one of those weird ladies that takes them in and like insists that they call her their aunt, which kind of feels like it might be what's going on there. I don't know. Does it seem like something you'd fuck with? I mean, I figure that'd be a good rainy day movie for when you just need some new holiday thing to check out.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put that on my wish list as a future thing, maybe for a Christmas viewing. I've got like so many of them right now. It's paining me because I'm at that time where we're close to the end, but I've got so many movies. I know I've got to cut some. Like I've got like a billion Krampus films. I wanted to watch all the campy ones of those. I had a whole bunch of this stuff, but I was like, I'm going to have to cut a lot of stuff to get to what I want at the end.
Excuse me, it says on here it's from 1971, so the list I was reading from might be misquoted. It does look like it is streaming for free on Pluto TV for any of you guys that want to check it out, and I'm sure it's probably available on YouTube as well.
I'm looking to see if they have a physical release.
Definitely on my list to watch. I'll probably fire it up on Pluto at some point in the next night or two. It just seems like a good time. Gory says, I miss when trailers had terrible jump scares. Yeah, it is kind of a lost art. Or at least terrible in a fun way, you know? Nowadays, they do sometimes have jump scares, but they're legitimately terrible in like a non-charming way. And you know that they've given away the main scare of the movie half the time. That seemed like it probably has tons of weird shit in it. So I don't feel like they spoiled anything for us with that trailer.
So that's the DVD it was released on. It was it looks like another pretty creepy
one of those midnight movies.
Yeah, it's like What's the Matter with Helen is what it's paired with. That also looks like it's got some
it's a questionable double feature because they're both fucking questions as the titles.
Yeah, they both have Shelley Winters though.
We got another Gorgonian in the house. What's up, Andrew? How you doing, buddy? Got some cool movies on the way from Andrew and a mystery surprise for the holidays, so I'm looking forward to getting that package. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Brandon?
I mean, they both have the same actress in it. Both have Shelley Winters in it. So.
Oh, there you go. That's the lady that plays Auntie Roo, right?
Correct.
And she looked like she was slaying it in Whoever Slew Auntie Roo, so I'm definitely down to check out that double feature. Is it terribly expensive? Is a good question.
It's out of print, but it's right now in the $10 range. So, you know.
I'm good with that.
I paid $10 for that. I paid $2 for it, too.
Yeah, I'd at least buy it for $1. So there's that. Yeah, I might be adding that to the collection if it ends up being good after I, preview it. So we have another movie on the list, which is another one that is just grossly overshadowed by Black Christmas. Actually, all three of our first films predated Black Christmas, are either awesome or look pretty fucking awesome, and have like notable things about them. Like this film right here, from 1972. Now, there's some question on Anti-Roo, because again, on this list, it says 72 for it, but then when I just Googled it, it said 71, so whatever. But this one, for sure, is from 1972. It's a TV movie starring a young Sally Field, a very young Sally Field. It's called Home for the Holidays. It basically concerns this elderly man who invites his daughters back home because he's convinced that his second wife is slowly poisoning him to death. Sounds fucking awesome. Unfortunately, it is a made-for-TV movie, which isn't a bad thing. I like the vibe of those. It's well documented across all channels that I participate in that I love a good TV movie. But that also means that oftentimes, especially if there's been no outcry for a re-release of it, you're stuck with just a TV spot as the trailer. This is a pretty nice, nostalgic little 30-second TV spot we'll check out for this, though. And it does showcase how fucking young Sally Field was in this movie. But it definitely sounds like one that I'm interested in checking out in the near future. And it is available for free in seemingly pretty good quality on YouTube from a couple of different sources. So here it is, Home for the Holidays.
Saturday.
She is slowly poisoning me to death.
A bedridden man summons his 4 daughters home to save his life.
If for some evil reason I'm ever accused by anyone of killing, I will not be the one who wakes up screaming.
Sally Field, Walter Brennan, Jessica Walter,
He killed her!
Julie Harris, Eleanor Parker. Home for the Holidays, Saturday nights, Owl Theater at 11 on...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong with that kind of shit, dude. That narrator does not sell it as a horror film at all, though. Like, he wasn't even trying to. He did not give a shit.
Well, I never considered it a horror film. I considered it more of a really intense drama thriller. I've seen it. Yeah. It still was fun. I'm not going to lie.
It looks fun. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to be like necessarily a body count movie or anything that's going to have blood and gore in it, being as it was like a regular TV movie. But this brings up a good question. Are you one of those people that does not count thrillers as being horror films, or at least horror adjacent? I mean, unless if it's a psychological thriller or something like a murder mystery, I do. It's like, because there's, thrillers like horror has several different subgenres.
See, I look at thrillers as having two things on the side, sort of like a spectrum. On the far side of one spectrum is horror. On the far side of another spectrum is drama. And depending on which side of the spectrum it is, really reflects to me whether I would consider it horror or not. Because
I think... Yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
Some of them are like way over here in drama, and there is nothing horrific about it. It's just more intense, like it's a police procedural. And
or a spy thriller, things like that.
So,
one of those government conspiracy type ones that they do all the time. I fully agree, and I'm glad that you brought up the idea of the spectrum, because I was not smart enough to think about that. But yeah, you got horror, and then you got drama, and thriller's kind of dead center. Like at its baseline, thriller is right in the center of the two of them. And then there's a lot of them that stray to the drama side and a lot that stray to the horror side. There's nobody on the planet that will ever convince me that Seven isn't simultaneously a psychological thriller and a fucking horror film.
Saw.
Dude, there's lots of them that are riding that line. You could argue Hand That Rocks the Cradle, not technically a straight horror film, but it's close as fucking enough for me. So Flowers in the Attic, that's another good one that's kind of like psychological thriller / exploitation flick, but it's more of a horror film than it isn't, So I will always consider thrillers, at least of the psychological and macabre variety, to just be sister genres to horror. Like, nobody would fault you for including Seven on a horror list,
and really Hitchcock, who dominated more the 60s, he specialized in thrillers. Most of his stuff, most people think he's a master of horror, but he's really a master of thrillers with a few.
Most people have only seen Psycho,
I mean, yeah, Psycho and The Birds are definitely horror. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But even Psycho really does hit that edge of horror / thriller a lot of the time. But again, I think a lot of the slow burn horror movies really started as thrillers that evolved into horrors as you got to the 70s and 80s.
I even think some of those ones that we consider horror movies now were thrillers as they were shooting them, but they just got macabre enough that we consider them horror films, So there is really a lot of blurring lines between the far end of like thrillers where they're basically horror films, especially I think too, if it's a thriller that throws in like a supernatural element or some element of murder, it's basically grandfathered into the horror genre, in my opinion. A lot of the old-timey horror movies that we think of as horror movies are closer to being thrillers by today's standards than they are full-on horror films, But yeah, very interesting that that's out there as well. I definitely need to see that. Just looks like it brings the good, TV movie vibes, and you got Sally Field, just young as fuck, looking beautiful as ever. She's still a beautiful woman. It's kind of insane. So next up on our list, we have, hold on, let me back it up here. A film that has recently been getting a lot more love and a lot more consideration, as maybe this should have been the movie that defined 70s Christmas horror. And that is from 1972. We got Silent Night, Bloody Night. Now, this is one that I have seen. It's been a while. I own it on a couple of different multi-packs in very bad quality, so I definitely need to try to upgrade it at some point. But basically, good.
Oh no, I was agreeing with you. I've got it myself.
This was co-produced by Lloyd Kaufman, which is notable. So definitely an early effort by the guy that would go on to be, world famous for making crappy movies with trauma. We all love him for it. It stars, lots of people, including John Carradine. So, it's kind of on that B-movie tip a little bit, but there ain't nothing wrong with that. And it follows a series of murders that occur in a small New England town on Christmas Eve after a man inherits a family estate, which was once an insane asylum. So let's check out the trailer real quick for 1972 Silent Night, Bloody Night. And then we'll talk. We'll keep this going. You guys know the drill by this point.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was left living.
His hands. Somebody cut off his hands.
Silent Night, Bloody Night, starring Patrick O'Neill and Astrid Heron.
Yeah, Butler wasn't kidding. Nobody's lived here for years.
Don't laugh at me. I want your ID. Some maniac escaped from Margaretville.
Would you like to drive there?
Also starring John Carradine. Was the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was left living. Silent Night, Bloody Night.
Yeah, they really missed an opportunity in that too, to imply that he also killed the mice in the house.
Yeah,
like that would have been real funny to me. But
that I agree with that. Actually, that's one I saw for the first time this year, because I bought Silent Night, Bloody Night 1 and 2, thinking the third one was going to be coming out in time for the holidays.
Oh, that's that one that certain dickhole indie filmmakers like fucking held hostage with a goddamn GoFundMe, and nobody knows whether or not the movie actually exists. So it's a legacy sequel in limbo. Am I correct on that?
I mean, I know the movie exists. But whether they're going to release it or not, that's another thing coming. I keep hearing it's like, oh, well, we hope to get by the holiday season. Well, I don't think that's going to happen anymore. It's probably going to be released in the spring or something, and then I'll watch it come this time next year. But
at the rate it's going, it might be released years down the road when we're finally getting to the indie horror years of this show here.
But the second one, oh my gosh! I mean, it wouldn't take much to improve upon the second one. Speaking of people like that we've talked about before, Dustin Ferguson struck again with the second one. Have you seen that one yet?
No, I've only seen the first one, and like I said, it's been a while, and I've only ever drunk watched it a couple of times on multi-packs that I had. So
Camp Blood 5 is not a one-off.
Oh my god! Well, that's bad news. Thanks for
exact
sharing.
same style as Camp Blood 5. So if
that
you love Camp Blood 5,
sucks. That fucking sucks because that movie definitely looks like it deserves some solid sequels. Again, I don't know. I'm going off very fuzzy memories here, but I do remember it being sort of your typical, like slasher in a big dark house type movie, and that's fine. I remember it having some pretty bloody kills in it, if my memory is correct. And it's also available pretty readily to watch if you guys want to check it out. I'll give it a double check here real quick, but I think it's available on possibly Tubi. I know that I saw an upload of it on YouTube, and yes, it is available on Tubi, Plex, Vudu, wherever you watch your streaming films.
Hey, if you wanted to go and get Amityville Apocalypse and see me and Mo on the screen, you could also pick that up at Retrosploitation with it because they do sell it over there.
True enough. Definitely grab those up, you guys. You might as well support our filmmaking endeavors. I guess I'm in a couple of Amityville films now, so. Despite my best efforts, I too got sucked into the black hole that is that fucking franchise. And I'm very excited to see how it all turned out. I'm sorry that I missed the premiere, man. Work was pretty busy yesterday. So.
Well, you've got a copy you can see now.
Indeed.
Oh, that one right there needs to be on the list if it's not. Yes, because that is a perfect film.
We'll be talking about that Saturday. Hopefully I can get it watched by Saturday as well, because I am between now and Saturday going to try to hit all the ones on the list that I haven't seen. So
I would have watched it with Kim, but that's the reason why I haven't watched it, because I want to show Kim that movie. It's just so cool.
I've heard good things, but everybody has been tight-lipped about actual details, which makes me even more fucking intrigued, because most of the time horror fans are like, oh, you got to see it, dude. There's this, that, this, and the other. We're not really too tight-lipped with spoilers on certain aspects of films, but that's one that you just hear people mention. It's got like this mystique to it, so I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Well, there's only one thing I had heard before I watched it, and I heard it a lot, which was it has some aspects of at least one other holiday movie.
Home Alone. Yeah,
yes,
that's the only other detail I've been given as well.
And it does ring true. It is a much creepier Home Alone, and it is the style. The style of the movie is just over the top crazy.
Cody's correct. We also appear as a podcast in the movie Teddy Scare, I believe it's called. So yeah, we've got other appearances. We're not just a one-trick pony with the Amityville stuff. We just somehow ended up doing two of those things, and after talking mad shit about it all over our channel, we're in two Amityville movies. Go figure.
I wrote and directed one entire film, so I can't really. I wrote and directed the shorts too, but I didn't direct.
Andrew, sweet summer child. There are Amityville has went to space. There's Amityville vibrators. There's Amityville gas chambers, which is literally just a dude farting for like an hour and a half because he was trolling the people that were making Amityville movies. I do agree with Cody. I think at least watching some of these shitty Amityville movies or being in them apparently is a rite of passage. It's probably not hard to get in one, Andrew. They made Amityville Karen, Amityville Thanksgiving, I mean, what's some other stupid ones they've done, Brandon?
Well, if you want an Amityville shark one, there's Amityville Island by the Mark Polonia. And then there's going to be Amityville Shark House, which I think that one is a Colazzo and Cool Duder combo piece that they did together, which is probably why it's not out. But so yes, there are lots of them, unfortunately, and I have a lot of them. I have a lot. Now, John Ward, if he ever sees this, he could tell you about Amityville because he is an avid collector. He's worse than me. He told me on the stream that he has at least 54 Amityville films.
There's not many times I think we should have an intervention for people when it comes to collecting this stuff, but I think that might be fucking kind of a serious problem, dude.
But my film Amityville Webcam actually is one of those few, the handful, and there are multiple ones that do make fun of the whole Amityville film thing. So at least I'm making fun of it when we're in it.
Oh, and make no mistake, this is all lighthearted. I mean, I don't really care at the end of the day. I think it's hilarious that there's so many Amityville films. Several of our friends have been in multiple Amityville films as well. If anything, it's became a good way to dip your toe into the indie horror, market, or get some experience being in some projects before you do something else that you'd rather do. I'm looking forward to your film, man. It's made with the right intentions, It's Amityville Webcam. It's literally the title kind of pokes fun at the fact that I'm sure a lot of them have mailed-in footage in them. So, not that there's anything wrong with that, but again, it's stuff that we poke fun at on the channel on occasion. Those GoFundMe movies and stuff, and it's just it's all part of the B movie scene, It is part of our modern reality with the shit. I'm still looking forward to somebody having the courage to make Amityville Gangbang, where it's just a naked chick on a bed writhing around with a bunch of invisible ghosts fucking the shit out of her. I think that's $1 million idea. So contact me if you guys want to make that. I'll write the scene, and it will consist of ooh, how old are you? Is that a powder wig? Because only she can see the ghosts. So and they're just showing up,
And one of the best of those is actually a Christmas movie. Amityville Christmas Vacation is by far one of my favorite Amityville films.
I think it's the only one I've really ever heard you praise. So there's that.
I mean, I like Amityville Vibrator, all right.
it does sound like a good time. So next up on our list, we got to move on from that shit.
Yeah.
We could be here all day with Amityville. We could be here all year with Amityville.
We'll have to do an Amityville special one day.
Oh, we're going to. We already know it's in our future. We're going to have some epic, year-long sequence where we rank every single one, and it's going to be a nightmare, but a fun nightmare to be a part of. So our next film on the list is, of course, Black Christmas. I mean, we'll just get it out of the way right now. Everybody's familiar with Black Christmas. It is probably still, in my opinion, maybe the most bone-chilling, just straight horror film that I've ever seen. There's just something about it, man. There's something about the mystery to it. It perfectly nails all those things that the original Halloween did, but doesn't fuck it up with a bunch of pointless sequels. I mean, it's just Black Christmas. Then you got a remake that was good, and you got a remake that was just way too full of estrogen or something. But the first one will always be a classic, and I think that it speaks for itself. So let's run the trailer, then everybody can kind of share their thoughts on Black Christmas, any good memories they have watching it, yada yada.
My mother's taking a place up at Mont Holly's. Anyone else want to come?
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Great. How about you, Claire?
No thanks, Barb. I've made some other plans.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bells swing and jingle bells ring.
Mom, hang on, I can't hear you. No, we're just having a little party.
Now the
Hey, quiet! It's him again!
Jingle bell rock.
Listen, you pervert, why don't you go over to Lambekai? They could use a little of this.
Jingle bells square in the frosty air.
Yeah, I was supposed to meet my daughter here. Her name's Claire Harrison. Do you know her?
I'm sure you'll find her at the fraternity house.
Have you seen Claire today? No one knows where she is.
No, not since last night.
Hello? Hello?
Some of the girls are over here today, but I haven't seen Claire.
Well, what the hell are you planning to do about it?
90% of the time, girls are reported missing from the college. They're at a cabin somewhere with a boyfriend. A high school girl's been murdered.
Claude? Claude?
Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old.
I really don't think it could be Peter.
Well, he's obviously upset about something. I'd like to talk to him. Can you tell me where I might reach him? The caller is in the house.
Oh, come on, this is a sorority house, not a convent.
Are you up there?
Jess?
You can't rape a townie.
I mean, it's the fucking pinnacle, dude. As much as it bums me out that these other films from the 70s got overshadowed by Black Christmas in terms of the hype, it's well fucking deserved. And it doesn't hurt that Bob Clark went on to direct another movie that most people directly associate with Christmas their entire lives, as far as family films go, with A Christmas Story. So it's this dude did the most epic fucking 1-2 punch ever in holiday film history. He directed like the premier Christmas horror film, and then turned around and directed like one of the premier fucking, most talked about, most well loved Christmas movies with A Christmas Story. I mean, that shit, there's still people sharing memes of that are like 20 years too young to have even grown up with the movie. My kid couple of years back wanted a Red Ryder BB gun because of A Christmas Story, and she got it. We still have it right out there.
But did she put her eye out?
No, I bought safety glasses with it and made sure to mention that part of the film several times while we were doing it. I was that dad, definitely buying the Red Ryder and the 2 sets of safety glasses and be like, I don't want her to put her eye out. I made sure to tell like every Walmart employee that so they could have their little Christmas chuckle. Good times. I don't know. What do you think of Black Christmas, man? I mean, is it a favorite film for you, or?
I think Black Christmas, in a way, is overrated historically. I'm not going to say it. No, before I say it, before I go get too much hate for that, because it is credited as being the first true slasher film. And to me, it's like, well, there's always been. I mean, shoot, the one that we just watched beforehand, Silent Night, Bloody
Silent
Night.
Night,
Bloodly
Night.
Bloodly. That's a slasher.
We just made up a new word, Bloodly. Silent Night, Bloodly Night.
No, I will say that if you're looking at it from a technical perspective, it's the first one that put all of those traits that were in other movies just separately together, that were then utilized and funneled into Halloween, which was the second one that everybody thinks of as the first slasher. So There is a lot of history, but I do feel like I feel like it does overshadow a lot of other movies that had similar premises by getting that record. But still, I mean, I think that if you are a horror fan, you should be watching this film because it is the birth of the slasher. You put this back to back with Halloween, and you can see where where they just start following that formula over and over.
Exactly. It's where everything got refined and polished and standardized, and Bob Clark gets to take that credit, in my opinion, not fucking John Carpenter. I don't know how anybody can still debate that to this day. I mean, you watch Black Christmas, and outside of switching the gimmick around, it's basically fucking the same movie. Black Christmas is just way creepier because it's got like that stalker living in the fucking attic. What's that called? Frogging, I think is the term for it, where somebody lives in your fucking attic without you knowing it, kind of a thing. It is legitimately the creepiest thing ever. And they borrowed that straight from When a Stranger Calls.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure definitely predated this. Also a movie that had a really good remake, so it shares that in common with Black Christmas. I think the reason the first Black Christmas remake was so good, too, was because you could build on it a little bit and make it a little bit more twisted and sinister without ruining the mystique of the original film. You could argue they go a little bit too far in explaining things in the 2006 version because, again, the mystique is always what made this and the first Halloween like really stand out to me. You don't get a bunch of bullshit backstory. It's just evil for the sake of being evil. And I think that's amazing. Let's see what the peanut gout over here has to say.
4K. I guess it is something that's been on my list. I've got the DVD, but I do want the 4K. Actually, it should get a Criterion release, and I really think that it has the historic value to do that.
Yeah, again, gory. It is fucking magical. I mean, the guy was sent from the heavens to give us good movies, basically. And it's so weird that he took such a dive later on, if I remember right. Because didn't Bob Clark also do Porky's? So simultaneously at the same time as giving us two of the best Christmas movies ever, he gave us the premier boner comedy. You know, so this dude was just knocking them out of the fucking park for a while there. And then I think he kind of petered off, if I remember right. You know, he kind of ended up doing like, actually, I've not seen any of these movies, so I don't know.
Yep.
They sound like a bunch of junk, though. It looks like he actually fucking directed. He directed Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. So,
well,
okay.
how the mighty have fallen. I guess you could say that's a horror film in its own right.
I think that might have been his last film on there too, and I can understand why. But yes, Andrew is correct. He also did Death Dream, which again, hitting like for my money, an iconic like milestone in horror history or just filmmaking history. Death Dream was one of the first movies ever to deal with the fallout psychologically and physically and everything else of the dudes that were coming back from the Vietnam War. So the whole underlying theme of Death Dream is that the war machine turned this guy into a monster. You've also got Tom Savini doing his first real gig as a makeup artist on there. So Bob Clark was just, even though he went on to do Baby Geniuses 2, and we'll likely never forgive him for that. You know, he was pivotal in the history of several genres and several people's lives. You know, Olivia Hussey, too. I think this is one of her earliest roles. And Olivia Hussey was one of my all-time favorite. Like this and Romeo and Juliet. And then, you know, okay, I originally saw her in Romeo and Juliet, super young version of Olivia Hussey, right? And I was like 8, so I could fully have a crush on her and it wasn't weird. And then later on, you know, I saw her in the It miniseries based on the Stephen King book. I hadn't seen Black Christmas yet, but It was like, okay, this is her as like an older woman, and she's still pretty fucking hot. And I think that instilled in me an appreciation for like MILFs, you know what I mean? Like girls don't have to stop being hot when they're if they've got it a lot of times, and they might be 60 years old, and I'm still like, damn, that's a beautiful woman, you know? And then I saw her in Black Christmas, and it splits the difference like perfectly. She's like, bam, peak Olivia Hussey in this thing.
I like the remake better because I started with the remake, but I do appreciate the original.
So what about that fucking period fest that was the second remake?
It's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's just very heavy-handed in the messaging. I'll admit, my wife still won't watch it because within the first couple of minutes of the movie, when it says, "I'm going to borrow your Diva cup," and that line alone, she's like, "No, shut it off. I'm done. It's no."
Because that's some repulsive fucking try hard shit is what it is, and it should be offensive to women. I guess from everything I've heard about it,
I guess it was sort of a sisterhood thing, but I don't know of how many women. I don't know many women.
I feel like that's not a thing.
Do
you know?
that's a bit much. But
I feel like that's not a thing. Was it written by a woman at least?
Yeah, it was supposed to be like they said. This is the first true feminist horror film. And
girl, you need to sort your shit out. Okay,
it was.
Aren't they redoing another remake of Black Christmas, or is that an erroneous article I read?
It's possible. I mean, it's not a hard formula to replicate. It's just a hard formula to replicate good.
I just have a hard time justifying a movie having 3 fucking remakes. It's not like it's based on a novel or anything like that. You know, so you can't even justify it as being like different adaptations. It's just them trying to do the same thing again.
I mean, I think that actually both of them did it differently though. I mean, Black Xmas really doubled down on the backstory of the killer and had that extra twist at the end with multiple peoples and did a lot of cool stuff with it. And then on top of that, added up the gore. I mean, amped up the gore factor and the violence level.
Right.
So it really did that. The 2008 was it 8? Oh, well, the most recent one. I mean, it literally had them taken on toxic masculinity. Literally, they're an evil spirit that was made up of toxic masculinity. They had
that couldn't have been 2008. That had to have been like 2016 or something.
But yeah, I mean that's a. I thought that it's like, but it's well done.
Could you look that up real quick while you're explaining this? Because I do want to know. That can't be 2008. They weren't that fucking brain dead with like try hard woke shit in 2008.
I mean, like I say, it was well put together. But okay, 2019.
Okay, that's a little more reasonable.
and the killers looked pretty cool, and a lot of the kills were cool, and it flowed well. So it's an easy movie to watch. You just have to get past that. So if you can get past that concept, you're golden.
I feel like most people couldn't, including women. Okay, there's an artful way of doing feminist horror. I feel like Jennifer's Body was a good example of that in some ways. There's a way of doing it and a way of not doing it. And as we all know in the business, a polished turd is still a fucking turd. All right. So the movie might be easy to watch and easy to look at because it probably had millions of dollars that they had at their disposal to shoot it. It sounds like it fucking sucks. And that's not me being anti-woke. I love the Jordan Peele movies. I like a lot of woke stuff. But when they're pounding you in the ass with it the entire time, it kind of takes away a little bit of your willingness to support the message, and it just feels like they're being preachy, whiny cunts about it, for lack of a better word. But yeah, that's kind of our thoughts on Black Christmas. Again, the type of thing I could spend easily 3 hours talking about the differences between the Black Christmas. I love the 2000s remake, and I love the original. I think they're both fucking dope. And they're both movies that I try to hit at least once a year. I favor the first one.
2019 again. But I can't. I need to watch it again later. That's actually, you want to know somebody who really who puts his word by the film being good? Dustin.
Gross. Is he saying that though because he thinks it might get him laid, or is he saying that because he actually believes it?
I think he actually believes it.
That's fucking terrible.
You know that guy don't mince his words on it.
Cody says he still needs to watch it. I assume he's referring to the original Black Christmas, and it is indeed on Tubi, Peacock, Pluto, and likely YouTube as well. It is free on YouTube actually, so there you go. We got a sharp drop off in viewers when I was talking shit about that stuff, but I'm sorry guys, that's just the way I feel about it.
Everybody there, the 2019's Black Christmas remake was their favorite film, and you just stepped on it.
Well, I guess I'm a sexist, misogynistic. Fucking cancel me, I guess. I don't know. It's just it sounds. I haven't even watched it yet, but so many people that I know that like our opinions tend to line up have just told me like it's gross, dude. Like there was no reason for them to do it. It was just a cash grab on like the wokeism stuff. And again, you know, I'm a fan of like woke ideology to a point. You know, like when we're getting to the point where we're just ruining things to make them feminist or whatever for no reason. I mean, what was the logic behind making Black Christmas feminist? Because it's girls in a college dorm? They were the first movies then arguably pretty feminist in a lot of ways because of that. So, and other things going on in it. So.
It was done well. I think if it wasn't as heavy-handed politically, it would have been a good film.
Yeah, it should have just been a fun slasher movie like the first remake instead of being fucking lame. And I'm sorry for, you know, apologies for the use of the word cunt. I've been listening to the Osbournes podcast a lot lately, so maybe they're normalizing it for me. I don't know. I guess it's just a word that I've always liked the bite of it, you know. I didn't mean it in a feminine way. I meant it in a just general douchebag way because it sounds like there's probably not just women behind that movie as well. Women know better. Like most of the women that I've heard talk about it say that it fucking sucks because everything you described, you know, it feels like they're trying to pander to them instead of feeling like it's genuinely for them, you know. And people can tell the difference. They're not fucking idiots. Yeah, Andrew agrees that it's not fun. You guys were a lot more, you know, diplomatic about it than me, I guess. So our next film is one that definitely needs more play during the Christmas season. This is one that I'd actually not heard of, and it was recommended to me by some real good friends of mine. Shout out to Jessica and Crystal Romans. I was good friends with those guys back in the day, and we recently started like talking again and stuff, hoping to get a movie night going with them and their, you know, boyfriends and whatever connected people they can get together so that we can start showing some of the schlock to a wider audience. But this is a movie that they recommended to me. They were all excited about it because they knew that I would love it based on all the, you know, my fandom of like exploitation and horror films. And that is The Night Train Murders, aka Last Stop on the Night Train. This is from 1975. And, you know, year after Black Christmas, it concerns a couple of girls that I believe are doing a cross-country trip through Europe for the holidays or whatever. And they end up in a last house on the left type of situation on a moving train. You know, or they're on an overnight train from Munich to stay with Lisa's parents in Italy. So they're going from Germany to Italy on a train overnight, and you know they end up in a crazy, like I said, sort of last house on the left type situation. You guys will get what I'm talking about once we check out the trailer here. Solid film. I've not seen it in a long time, but I did want to specifically shout them out for recommending it because back then, you know, this was probably when I was like 19. I was deep in the horror exploration, and so anytime anybody could turn me on to some twisted shit like this that I hadn't seen, it was like the most exciting thing in my life, you know. So I watched this movie at least a couple of times after they recommended it. So here it is, Last Stop on the Night.
It's the night before Christmas. Margaret and Lisa are going home for the holidays. But don't bother to wish them Merry Christmas. Their future isn't going that far.
Let's find a compartment with our people.
Well now, look who's here.
You can say to yourself, it's only a movie, but it won't help this time. And don't waste time looking for an ending you can live with.
I think you should take them right off, dear. Or we'll never see your little nookie. No, let her do it by herself.
Come on, you bitch. What are you waiting for? Yeah.
Your ticket takes you one stop beyond the end of the line. The last stop on the night train. Every seat in this theater becomes a coach seat to hell. And if you're in one, you'll feel it.
Can't do it one way. Let's do it another, huh?
You can say to yourself, it's only a movie. But it won't help. You'll know you've been closer to the last stop than any living soul would want to be.
Hey, we'll only cut her a little.
You'll see, you'll love it once your virginity's gone.
You know, I was deflowered this way.
Maybe this is too close. The last stop on the night train.
So does any of that movie actually take place at night?
Well, day for night, but we're used to that around these parts. A lot of, lay people, I guess, that aren't used to the schlocky fucking techniques would be like, what the fuck? And none of that was that night. And you're right. It was all shot during the day. I'm almost certain of it. Definitely, it goes without saying, not one to fire up on Christmas Day with the family. It's pretty fucking greasy, The lady that appears in there, the blonde twisted fuck that was talking about being deflowered, actually appears in our next trailer as well. This was kind of a back-to-back 1-2 punch for that lady, Bob Clark style, where she just knocked it out of the park with 2 crazy-ass Italian horror films that both, I guess, coincidentally center around the Christmas season or Christmas as a gimmick. What do you think, man?
I don't know why, but I thought about the Jamie Lee Curtis film Terror Train, which does not fit because it's New Year's, not Christmas. But unless you call it holiday, if you do a holiday thing, it would fit because it's New Year's. But
I'm working on a New Year's idea.
There's actually a lot of cool New Year's horror films. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities there. That one actually did take place at night. But still, it looks fun. I could see that. I mean, a train is definitely a cool place to have a horror film. I think that there are a lot fewer of those than you would believe.
Yeah.
I mean, Terror Train is still one of my favorites. I love Terror Train because trains are hard to leave. I mean, Snowpiercer was a good one from more recent times. I mean, sci-fi.
I was going to say, it feels like sci-fi and action kind of stole the train gimmick. Because then we also had movies like Under Siege 2 or Money Train. That was a good one. So, I mean, I don't know why there hasn't been more of those horror-wise. But I guess it kind of is also. No, there's lots of cool stuff you could do with horror on a train. Yeah. Fighting across the top of it like a cowboy movie would work for Jason as well or whatever, I think if Jason Took a Train was part 8, people would be more into that than him not fucking actually going to New York City.
Well, especially if you put some of those. I mean, Train to Busan's a good one for that because that one actually was a zombie movie happening on one of those fancy Asian trains, one of the fancy Korean ones. You can actually do a lot with those.
It's also cool that it is a Christmas movie associated with trains because it is. Trains, I tend to, maybe it's because of like old movies and stuff, or just Christmas villages that incorporate trains, like the little mini villages that incorporate the train that goes around in it. I associate train sets with Christmas, so trains by default to me are like they do remind me of Christmas. The Polar Express is about a fucking train, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with Cody though. We need more convenience store horror.
True enough.
I mean, we can't let Kevin Smith's film, what was it called? The
Yoga Hosers?
Yeah, Yoga Hosers be one of the only convenience store horror films. out
The
there.
closest we've got is really Intruder outside of that, and that's a grocery store horror film, but it is close, you know.
There was a horror film about this guy, this girl who was starting to take up like a shift at a gas station, and she had dated this guy that was actually turned out to be a serial killer called the Whistling Killer, and everybody thought he was dead, but it looked like he had decided to come back just as she was working her first shift, and that was pretty cool.
You know what's another fucking good one is it's not a film, but it's a segment in an anthology. It's in John Carpenter's Body Bags, and it's that one where the dad from Even Stevens plays like that serial killer fucking guy that's like posing as a gas station attendant late at night. Oh, such a good fucking Cody. You need to watch John Carpenter's Body Bags just for that segment.
Oh, that's
it is amazing.
That is a good anthology.
Whole anthology is great, but specifically for Cody's mention of convenience store horror, that's one that you need to get under your belt if you haven't seen it, dude. I can't honestly think of any other ones that prominently. I mean, there's a really cool like splatter scene at the beginning of Leif Jonker's Darkness that happens in a convenience store. That's about it. I mean, I'm sure there's some other scenes in convenience stores and horror movies, but none that are centered around it that I can think of.
Yeah, I agree. So
we've got some video store horror, but that's not really relevant to us nowadays, unfortunately.
There's a lot of nostalgia for it right now, so I mean, I think that it's the right time to do it, but that window is getting smaller.
So let me double check the. Sorry, repeat that last part.
I said in 10 years or so, people ain't gonna remember video stores anymore.
Unfortunately true, but you know, it is what it is. Does not look like Night Train Murders is available to watch anywhere officially other than YouTube for $4 rental. But I'm pretty sure that when I was looking it up earlier, I did see someone had a rip of it up on YouTube. So worth looking into that. Also, maybe check Internet Archive. You didn't hear that here, but you did also. So, yeah, I don't know. I doubt the scrub bots are going to find us an hour and 12 minutes into this thing and bump it for advertising, that kind of shit.
Oh, Blue Underground did release a physical of Night Train Murders.
Yes, pretty nice one as well.
So, you know, if you see it, say on whatever means you figure out, and you really like it, you know, support physical media and grab a copy.
And that directly supports, I believe, Bill Lustig, who is a dude who has a movie that's going to show up on our list a little bit later on. So, unless Bill sold Blue Underground, I don't know. But yeah, our next film, and the last of the 70s, the one to close out the 70s, is one that, honestly, I have to admit, even though this is a film I've quoted many, many times as being one of my favorite Italian horror films of all time, I rank it right up there with Tenebrae. I rank it right up there with really Tenebrae and Suspiria, I guess. And they all happen to be by the same fucking director. This is Deep Red. Which, you know, is an easy film to watch and forget that fucking Christmas and trauma surrounding Christmas and Christmas decorations and toys and everything like that is central to the fucking gimmick of Deep Red. It's ingrained in the movie. I see Brandon shaking his head over there. You disagree?
I mean, I guess I'd have to look at it again, but the 2 times I've seen it, I did not recall any Christmas in it at all.
It's in there. It's even featured in the trailer, dude. But it's one of those things where the weirdness of it being a Dario Argento movie totally distracts you from the fact that, holy shit, Christmas is central to this thing, you know. And then the movie is even called Deep Red, you know, which red is associated with Christmas as a color, you know, not just in our country, but in countries around the world too that celebrate that type of Christmas. It's got a Christmas thing going on, undeniably, and that's why it's our first what do you call it, wild card on the list. because I don't associate this movie with Christmas at all. This was something that I didn't even notice until I was doing, researching each movie on the list that I was reading through and looking into them. And it's like, holy fucking shit. Deep Red is a Christmas movie, dude. So, yeah.
I can feel death in this room. You have killed, and you will kill again. Ah!
What was that?
There are ghosts in there.
I don't know what to tell you, man. It's a fucking Christmas movie. I mean, the whole backstory, when you think about all those flashbacks of the killer's like memories or whatever in the movie, there's like Christmas trees present. There's even a Christmas tree that the killer drew into that psycho little kid's drawing. They're playing with the sort of toys you would have got as at Christmas during the age range of the person that's, playing the character. It all factors in. It's just somehow the magic of Dario Argento and Giallo filmmaking makes you not even realize that that's central to the theme of the thing.
Well, I do always consider Giallo's kind of, we were talking about the line of thriller and horror. Those tend to be closer to the, they're on the horror spectrum, but they come close to the thriller on the opposite end of it. They just went over the line like one toe over, because they're very much detective flicks. Almost all of them are detective flicks in some ways or another, just with a lot of grisly murders and otherworldly stuff going around.
True enough. And I would say that those things, by technicality, make Deep Red a fucking horror film, but I agree. They're closer to being thrillers. By, I guess, most Americanized modern sensibilities. I consider Deep Red a horror film, just like Tenebrae. They get real twisted, dude. Like, it's not like they're just languishing in the realm of thrillerdom. They take it beyond, and Deep Red has some solid gore in it and stuff like that too, and other frightening elements that I think go beyond being a thriller.
I consider them thrillers in the sense that Seven is a thriller, and Seven has extremely nasty gore to that. So I would still say, yeah, they hit the horror, but they definitely have a lot of thriller DNA to them. Except
True
for, I would say Suspiria is probably one of the few that I would consider the exception, because a lot of it's these people on the trail of a killer doing all the investigative work, doing all the questioning, doing all this stuff. But you get to see the kills. So
true. But I mean, you could also argue even in something like Tenebrae, where it's about the author that turns out to be the killer at the end without even really realizing he's the killer most of the time. I mean, that they redid that in High Tension, and that's fully a fucking horror film.
True.
And it basically might as well be the same movie as Tenebrae in certain ways. It's just more extreme with the gore. So I guess they walk the line, if anything, those particular films. I would agree Giallo as a whole is closer to the thriller genre than it is horror a lot of the time. But specifically Deep Red, Tenebrae, and Suspiria, I think, are those Argento films that they walk the line. I'll give you that, but they do it in a masterful way, you know, where they're sort of simultaneously horror films and thrillers.
Like I say, I mean, it's in the horror genre, but it's in the horror genre on the opposite side of thriller. Whereas you've got a thriller that's very close to horror, but it's still a thriller, and you got a horror that's close to thriller, but it's still horror at the end. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can get with that. I'd love to claim credit for like discovering this organically, but again, I only even noticed it when I was like looking at the list that whoever compiled this on the internet made. And then I was like, Deep Red, you know, and then I started looking into it and it's like, holy fucking shit, it's a Christmas movie, you know? So you're welcome, you know, even though I can't claim credit for the discovery, I've made hopefully some new people aware of it. So you now get to watch Deep Red on Christmas because of this, if you did not realize this before, as I'm sure many of you didn't. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be working it into my holiday rotation. Why the fuck not? You know? So that concludes the 70s, and it also puts us at our halftime point of this. A lot of these are going to go much quicker.
I'd have a little disco riff to that, you know, 70s.
Right. Yeah, we should have had a disco ball effect going for that period. But yeah, I think the 70s was a strong decade of Christmas horror films, you know. You had a lot of them. They were decidedly more nasty and sleazier than the ones that we were going to get later on. But then you start on such a wholesome note in the 70s with stuff like, you know, Whoever Slew Aunt Roo or Home for the Holidays, where they're basically like TV movies or sort of Disney movies that go crazy kind of a thing. So you've got some very distinct vibes between your holiday horror in the 70s. And we didn't get a ton of them. There's really just the 6. There's like a Coffin Joe movie on the list that has a Christmas scene in it. But the movie, when I was reading through the plot summary, sounded so insane that like Christmas was beyond an afterthought in it. They just had a scene where snakes pop out of a Christmas tree or something. So it didn't seem like it fit.
Now, the 80s, on the other hand, that's really the renaissance of the holiday Christmas horror film.
Well, I would argue that now is the renaissance of it. In the 80s is where the boom truly fucking happened, you know? Yeah. Because there is, and this is no joke, dude, in the 80s, there is, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 horror movies across the decade that center around or feature Christmas. You know, so you do the math, that's at least one a year. Mostly 2 a year. Which might even be more frequent than we're getting now, but I feel like we get big chunks where we get several indie Christmas horror films and a couple of big budget ones, you know. So we've truly hit the renaissance of it, but the boom, it happened in the 80s. And the film that really kicked it off is, what would you say?
Silent Night, Deadly Night. But that's there.
See, so far beyond true. And I would have said the same thing before doing this list. But that's not the way it took place at all, brother. Really, the first Christmas horror film, incidentally following on this list, Terror Train, which we mentioned not long ago, as a New Year's film, which maybe we'll be talking about at some point.
Yeah, if that was a Christmas film, that would have started us off because that was 80. That was right there at the first year, but
yeah, and it is the first holiday horror because this list includes all holiday horror films, not just Christmas. I'll send it to you. But you know, our first movie of the 80s that's a proper legit Christmas horror film is All a Good Night, also from 1980. This I have not seen, but it looks fucking phenomenal. So we're going to check out the trailer right now and then talk a little bit more about it.
It was the start of Christmas vacation. A few were staying, and they planned to have one hell of a good time.
I would sincerely like to wish all those students leaving for Christmas vacation a pleasant journey and the happiest of holidays.
TJ is coming up with a few of his friends tonight.
The dean of the school was away, so the girls decided to invite their boyfriends. It was against school regulations, but they were always very good at breaking the rules. This time, they'll wish they hadn't.
You must pray. Pray so the devil won't claim you for one of his own.
Santa came to kill.
What the hell are you doing up here in that dumb outfit?
Even the police didn't suspect Santa Claus.
Oh, Tom, take that bloody mask off. Take me to bed.
No one suspected Santa Claus. He was hunting for blood. He was everywhere. What kind of a crazed mind was killing and mutilating his victims? There was no one to help. No one at all. They ran, they cried, they died. Merry Christmas to all. And to all, a good night.
So, like this one and Christmas Evil both kind of capitalized on the Killer Santa thing before the Silent Night, Deadly Night took in. Because
yes,
I saw the Killer Santa and I thought, oh, shoot, there is one that comes before that one that I could think of that I've seen. And it was not this one, but it was Christmas Evil. Same year, though.
Yeah, and I mean, Christmas Evil, for me, even though I think of Silent Night, Deadly Night when I think of like 80s Christmas horror, probably because it had sequels and shit.
Yeah.
Christmas Evil is the first one I think I saw even before I ever actually saw Silent Night, Deadly Night, which we'll get to because it's the next film on the list. But man, was I pleasantly surprised with the look of To All a Good Night. I mean, it just looks like exactly the type of shit that we're all into. Obviously, Andrew's familiar with Christmas Evil as well. I think that if I was to guess before making the list, I would have said Christmas Evil was the earliest Christmas horror film of the 80s. But we actually got that the same fucking year as To All a Good Night. And Christmas Evil is pretty goddamn badass as well because, you know, it's just solid. I think Christmas Evil is one of those movies that's aged like a fine wine, right? Like when you first see this back in the day, it's just another film in the flood of horror films you're seeing. You don't really take note of how fucking creepy and weird the whole thing is, you know? So every year of my life, and I don't watch this every year, but like every time I've revisited this movie, I realize it's like creepier and grosser than it appeared when I was younger, you know? Because it also has like a I don't want to say lighthearted vibe, but in a way it is. Compared to some of these other ones. Yeah. I mean, Christmas Evil feels like almost a festive movie because it is pretty festive, but it's just fucked up. Yeah.
You know, a film that kind of reminds me of how Christmas Evil was tonally was the Robin Williams film Toys, which is also one that is a creepy one that takes place during Christmas time, which I need to put that on my list because I know I have it. I've got a list of all the films in my collection that are Christmas themed, and I keep remembering ones that I have, and Toys is definitely one of them. I don't even know what I would
Toys it defies some genre because there is some straight up horror movie shit in Toys as well. Like when he falls into that tank with that weird creature that they're building. Like there's some definite horror movie stuff in Toys.
That was definitely a Christmas one too, so that one goes for it.
I think it bridges a couple of different holidays, but the main set piece of the movie is Christmas, right? So, one of the best actually Christmas sequences ever in a movie, I think, is Toys. That whole like musical thing that you get to watch like basically in full.
I don't know
but
why,
anyways,
but there's a similar tonality to it. For Christmas Evil, there's like this weird ambiance to it. I love that.
Yeah, it's basically just a whimsical fucking almost a family film, you know? But then the more you break it apart, the creepier it fucking gets. Like how they built him that doll sister in Toys. I mean, there's a lot of things that are fucking creepy about that movie. So I guess, again, you know, just the perfect time to check out the trailer for Christmas Evil. If you guys haven't seen it, you know, hopefully this turns you on to checking it out. If you have, you know, definitely a good reminder to get another viewing of it in before the holiday season's over. You'll see what I'm talking about. This movie gets creepier as time goes on.
I told you he'd be happy that we remembered him.
This Christmas, Santa's going to make everyone happy. The grown-ups and the kids. Christmas Evil. The non-believers.
Watch out!
And the screamers. And this Christmas, you better believe in Santa, or he'll slay you.
Merry Christmas, Frank.
Christmas Evil, the night he dropped in.
Yeah, that movie had some amazing set pieces and probably one of the coolest Santa outfits I've seen in these films. I love the droopy mustache, how it goes in there. It just is such a cool look to it.
Yeah, most of the, to be honest, most of the Santa outfits and holiday horror fucking suck. You know, I think that's a big part of the charm of Christmas Evil as well. So I'd fully agree. It's just solid holiday horror. I think it should be part of everybody's yearly marathon. I kind of am bummed that I haven't watched it every year. And that could be in part because it gets creepier every fucking year, you know? We've said a lot about the movie, but is there anything else you want to add to it? I mean, would you recommend, is it the type of holiday horror film you would recommend to people? You know,
I think if anybody who likes the Killer Santa Claus type stuff can really get into this. I think anybody who likes Silent Night, Deadly Night could get into this one pretty well. Just keep in mind, it's like any of those types of early 80s, late 70s vibe, you know, slow burn, but it pays off. It pays
great
off.
Poster too.
Really,
I think it's, you know, one of the most festive posters that we've came across so far. Like all the other ones try to make it way more horrifying. This almost does look like an old Christmas postcard with just that slight, you know, touch of like the axe dripping blood and the doll being beheaded, you know.
And it does have a Vinegar Syndrome release, and it's a pretty good release too. So physically, it's very easily available.
Right. And I'll do a quick check of it. Well, at least you're keeping the torch lit for it, Andrew. That's great that you watch it every year. I think I'm going to start, especially now that my kid's old enough to appreciate it. It is available on Tubi, Sling TV, Vudu, Crackle, and Plex for free. So just watch it on Tubi. All those other things are too much fucking hassle. Yeah, definitely one to check out, though, if you haven't seen it. So our next film on the list is one, again, this is Deep Red, I think, was in there sort of on a technicality at first, but the more that you dig into it, Christmas is pretty central to it. This one is definitely a technicality, and I squoze it in here just because technically it is a Christmas movie, but it is also like a cold, wintry sort of film when you watch through it. It's got that vibe through the whole thing. And, you know, it's just one of the best slasher movies of all time, and that's Maniac. We'll talk how this is technically a Christmas movie after we get through this here. But, yeah, let's check out that trailer, because Maniac rules.
Maniac.
That's lovely.
You can lock your doors, but you can't lock the madman out of your mind. Maniac. It will tear the life out of you.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, you share your thoughts on it being a Christmas movie.
No, I think it's technicality, but hey, it's in the background, so I can't really hold it. I wasn't thinking about it when I was watching this movie back when we covered it for Inside Movies Galore, so I did not catch it. But you know, when I'm looking for it carefully, yeah, I guess I can see it. So,
I've been watching this for like,
you know.
Once you see it, you can't unsee it. I mean, it's this was another discovery for me, kind of like Deep Red. Like maybe Forrest would have been astute enough to point out during that Maniac discussion, because I think I was on for it, that it was a Christmas movie, but I was probably drunk. Let's be honest, like, especially back then. Now I'm more measured with it, but I don't remember it being a Christmas movie at all, even though at some point he stops and talks to a neighbor literally carrying a Christmas tree, you know? And I think there's like wreaths at different parts of the movie, including maybe even by his mom's grave, that are like clearly the pine and red ribbon sort of Christmas wreaths. And I mean, he does, you know, technically take his girlfriend on a date to visit his mom. He brings her home for Christmas, essentially. But Home for Christmas is a fucking cemetery where he has a psychotic breakdown. So, you know, there's similarities between it and other Christmas movies in certain regards. And then you also have the similarities with Christmas Evil, in that both the killers are motivated basically based on mommy issues. Granted, we don't have Santa Claus going down on his mom in this movie like we did in Christmas Evil, but clearly something happened, and maybe she burned him with some cigarettes. Maniac is definitely on this list as a technicality, just because I really love the movie, and it technically does take place during Christmas. But we got to wake Brandon up right now with our next selection from the list, because it's definitely more interesting than Maniac, and that is from 1982. Maniac was from 1980. This is The Dorm That Dripped Some Blood. And, you know, I've never seen this movie. I've heard the title several times over the years. It's one that I've been aware of based on the title alone.
Would
never have guessed that it was a Christmas movie. And good.
No, I'm thinking to myself, do I have that one? I know that I know of it. I know it's been on my list, but I don't know if I have it.
Our viewers dropped to 0. Apparently, the Maniac thing was beyond their ability to give me credibility. It is a technicality, but it's a fun one, and it's a good movie. Anyways, The Dorm That Dripped Blood basically centers around some college kids that stay on campus over the Christmas season. This is a common theme in college horror, where it's like the kids that stayed over during a holiday break. So really, when you think about it, you got to go back and look at almost every college horror movie and see what holiday it coincides with, because then technically they're holiday movies for that, you know. This one does look, from my memory, like it does feature Christmas as a backdrop in a lot of scenes. But for the most part, they're in this like asylum that they've volunteered to clean out for whatever reason, or a condemned dormitory. Excuse me, where an unknown assailant begins stalking and murdering them. It was also released under the title Pranks at some point. But yeah, I've not seen this. It sounds like you haven't either. Did it turn out that you actually own it?
No, I don't, but I definitely have had it on my list to get. So it's one that I've heard of, definitely.
Well, let's check out that trailer, see what it looks like.
Kids love to play tricks. Certain tricks are called pranks. P R A N.
What's wrong? The phone's dead.
K.
Oh, great.
S.
You've got to trust me.
Pranks is this year's most terrifying motion picture.
You here all alone? I mean, is anybody else helping you out?
Yes, there's a group of us here. Did you hear anything up on the roof?
Do you think we need to go up there?
Need to? We don't need to do anything. I'm getting the thing out of my eye. Hey, what's wrong down there?
This isn't funny anymore!
Pranks. When the kidding stops, the killing starts. Pranks. It's a killer.
That looks fucking legit, dude. Definitely getting added to my list. I'm not sure if I own it because I'm not smart enough to have it all logged in an app like you are. Maybe it's on a like random horror multi-pack that I own somewhere around here. But dude, I don't know. Am I wrong? I think that looks fucking phenomenal.
Oh yeah, the movie title alone that they did, Pranks. I like that. Even though I think The Dorm That Dripped Blood, it was also pretty cool. Pranks is
it makes it sound older than it is. The Dorm That Dripped Blood, right? Like it sounds almost like a 50s or a 60s horror film.
Well, there's one called The House That Dripped Blood.
Right. So it makes it sound dated. I think Pranks would have been a better title for it. Neither title makes you think of Christmas, but it did look like there was like a holiday dinner table that gets smashed up at one point in the movie. So and I feel like I looked at screenshots and it did look like there was some Christmas shit in the background of the movie.
And Synapse has a release of it on Blu-ray if those that are looking.
And either way, when you get to those college horror films, I mean, this is an interesting argument to make, right? Like when you're looking at a college horror film where they stay over during the Christmas season and they end up getting into some shit like this, I don't think that disqualifies it from being a Christmas film, even if Christmas isn't in the background the whole time. Because the whole point of it is that they stayed home they stayed at school for the season. So there's not going to be a bunch of Christmas shit going on for them. Like, that's the whole fucking point of the movie, is that they're sitting out the holiday season to do this. So I think that's that's an exception you have to make for holiday horror films. Like, this is 100% a Christmas movie because that's the whole reason they're there. You know, they didn't have family to go home to, so now they're in this fucked up situation.
Sort of like how Black Christmas is, if you think about it, is about a bunch of these people staying at the dorm over the holidays.
It just happened to be that they had the good foresight of putting in enough holiday stuff to make it also feel like a Christmas movie.
Yep.
So we have 2 more films to look at here, and then we're done for the night. So you look like you're passing out too. Slap those cheeks a little bit, dude. Get another belt of that whiskey. Let's
more of the it's more of the sinuses are blocked, so I'm having to breathe through my mouth most of the time, so that's causing difficulty.
Oh, no problem. I'm not hating on you, but we're in the home stretch here, okay? We got 2 more movies to do. And both of these are movies I have not seen. So that's something that we got going for us as well. Also, the first trailer here is not even a minute long. And it is for a French film, of all things, called Bloodbeat. This is one that I've encountered the trailer and the artwork for several times over the years, and it does look pretty fucking badass. Essentially, it concerns, a young couple attending a family gathering for Christmas in a rural home when a spirit wearing samurai armor begins killing members of the family, 2 of whom have psychic abilities, and their neighbors. So basically, when you watch the trailer, you'll get what I'm talking about. But it's like Tourist Trap or Friday the 13th Part 7, but without Jason. And instead, there is a ghost samurai attacking these motherfuckers on Christmas. If that doesn't sound like one of the raddest things ever, I don't know what to tell you. Just check out the movie right here, and you'll see what I mean.
A ghost, a devil, a poltergeist. Call it what you will. It lives, breathes. You'll be paralyzed with fear as it kills and mutilates anyone in its path. A girl possessed, woman tormented by a psychic powers. Bloodbeat, a horrifying, inexplicable events, an evil presence seeking revenge, spilling blood, spreading terror. Bloodbeat.
Oh no, that is cool.
Yeah,
I feel like I've seen it, but I can't remember.
I definitely have not, but again, like I said, it's a trailer that I have ran across a couple of times. I was going to include it in a Midnight Movie mixtape at one point, after I think I'd seen it in one of like the tape trading groups. It's a rare scholar and a gentleman among us that includes, original movie poster art and a trailer in their posts for movies. You should do it more often when you share what you're watching, so that people can be like, that looks sick. I want to check out the trailer. Damn, I'm going to watch this, So give it a look. I mean, that's one thing I can boast about, is I get a lot of credit amongst friends for turning them on to movies because of shit like that. So Bloodbeat looks sick. I mean, it's just ridiculous enough to be one of the most perfect Christmas movies of all time. We don't really get an indication from that trailer whether or not there is a heavy amount of Christmas in the backdrop of the movie, but I'm willing to give it a shot just based on what I saw there, Our final film comes from the year of our Lord, 1984. Same year as Master of Puppets, if I remember right, and several other great thrash albums. It was just a good year in general. and this is Don't Open Till Christmas. It came from the United Kingdom. From what I can tell, it follows a mysterious killer murdering Santa Claus impersonators in London during Christmas time. So literally a dude murdering, instead of it being a guy dressed up like Santa at this point, it's a dude dressed up, or a dude just going around fucking killing people that dress up as Santa in the most Christmassy city on the planet when you really get down to it. So this might be the ultimate Christmas movie. I've not seen it, but I have seen the trailer, and I can tell you this: you're going to enjoy it. Do you own this or not, Brandon?
I want to own it. I have seen it, but I don't own it, which is sad because I do own Pieces, and Pieces is great. So, and I really enjoyed it when I saw it. I thought it was kind of cool, you know what? But I thought, you know, wait. You know, we have all these Santas killing, you know, turnabout is fair play.
Yeah.
And
to be honest, good. Sorry.
It reminded me of this film idea I had, and I said John Ward should do this because he's good with the killer Santa Claus stuff. It should be this thing where there's this killer on the loose, and everybody is so used to killer Santa Clauses that they just blame the real Santa Claus for the murders. So the real Santa Claus has to dodge the police while he tracks down the real murderer and takes them down so that he can prove his innocence.
I get with that. I also have recently had an idea for a horror movie called Ring-a-Ding-a-Ding-Ding-Dong, where it's about one of those Salvation Army workers that just goes crazy and starts beating people to death around the city with the bell that aren't showing like the spirit of Christmas or generosity. I think that would be a pretty fun short film in the very least. So look for it on a YouTube channel near you sometime in the distant future. Ring-a-Ding-a-Ding-Ding-Dong by Mosley. Bloodbeat is available to watch for free on Tubi and Plex. And before we dive into the trailer here, we're going to go ahead and check this movie as well. Don't Open Till Christmas, 1984, and it is available for free on Plex, which probably means not free from what I understand with that app. And then you can get it with an AMC subscription or previous, Prime subscriptions elsewhere. But it's definitely available on the internet if you really want to find it. So let's check out the trailer for this real quick, and then we'll do our closing thoughts and close this bitch out. We're right on the money, man. We've been averaging 2 hours with these, or 90 minutes, and I'm loving the consistency there. So let's check out the trailer for Don't Open Till Christmas.
Present from the people who brought you Friday the 13th. Now comes Don't Open Till Christmas.
A homicidal maniac is loose at Christmas. His target is Santa Claus. No one dressed as Santa Claus is safe. His death toys are a spear, a gun, an open razor, a dagger, or a garrote. Execution by any means. Don't open till Christmas. Some Santa Clauses ignore the warnings. He surely wouldn't attack a woman. Don't Open Till Christmas with special guest star Carolyn Monroe.
Yes, I am. I'm coming to get you.
Terror drives one Santa Claus into a house of wax. Amidst the wax and plaster, a real body, warm flesh, wet blood. Don't open till Christmas.
What possible reason could I have for going around killing Santas?
Oh, none. No.
Yeah, I'm coming to get you.
So, Santa, did you bring me any presents?
I'm not the real one.
Starring Edmund Purdom, who knows there are only 3 more killing days till Christmas. Don't open till Christmas. If you do, you may not see in the new year.
That looks fucking amazing, dude. What?
such a fun film. I enjoyed it. I will. It is one that I've had on my wish list for a while, but I want it on the Blu-ray so I can get it all cleared up and just.
I don't care how I get that. I need it in the collection immediately. I mean, that does look fucking awesome. Carolyn Monroe, I'm never gonna turn down. She's one of my old school, like, genre movie crushes or whatever. And I love the guy telling the girl, feeling the need to tell the girl he's not the real Santa. He takes the beard off. That was my favorite scene of any of these trailers I've seen all night. It looks like it has some decent kills in it too, eh?
Yeah, it has some good kills. I think that I think it really does try to flip things on its head a little bit, but I do like the concept. It is good.
Well, and the interesting part of this is that, okay, we tend to associate, again, both of us, 80s Christmas horror with Silent Night, Deadly Night, because it came out and became a franchise pretty much. But in reality, at this point, we're barely at the middle part of the 80s. We're not even in 1985 yet. And the genre from the 70s till now had already been explored to the point where there was somebody making like a subversive film like this, where they're trying to turn it all on its head and kind of make fun of it a little bit, but while making a simultaneously legitimate looking horror film. The mask that he's wearing in that style of straight razor make it so much more grisly too, in my opinion. Like, that's almost how I imagine Jack the Ripper looked, even though there's no way he could have got like a vacuum form mask back in those days.
Oh, I love those. The Mask and Silent Night, which was the remake for Silent Night, Deadly Night. That one also was really good.
I liked that remake a lot as well.
That one had a quality similar to Black Xmas, really, in my opinion, remake-wise.
Mm-hmm.
There was
they
a
put
lot
a person in a wood chipper too, and we all know I'm a fan of that. Okay.
I mean, it was like basically spirit of the movie, but definitely took it up a notch gore-wise. Though that deer kill in Silent Night, Deadly Night was still one of my favorites.
See, here's the thing, dude. A lot of us, even though, let's be honest, most of the remakes back in those days were good. Or they're at least good because we look at them through the lens of all the shitty remakes that have happened now. But by and large, I think all of those horror remakes that were coming out in the early to mid 2000s, or even like the early 2010s, were still worth watching, but at a certain point, they realized they took it too far with trying to commoditize, to try to turn our nostalgia into a commodity that they could trade, basically. And, it bums me out because a lot of these remakes would have been cool like 15 years ago, but they didn't care about that stuff now. The only reason they're hitting it is because they're at the bottom of the well. And I'm sure there will be a remake renaissance in the future where it all comes back around and it's good again for a while.
Or maybe an original film renaissance. That'd be kind of cool as well.
Well, it's like with the Marvel films and the current remake trend and all that stuff. I'm not necessarily complaining about it. I mean, it's been fun in its own ways. But the fact of the matter is, it's a symptom of them resting on their laurels and getting too comfortable being able to just print money with this shit. Yeah. So it's going to fall out from under it. It's the same way that fucking weird Western Renaissance that happened in the fucking, like really the 70s through the 90s kind of died off. And then here we are 20 years later, and those sort of shows are getting super popular again, because you got to let something die off for a while before you can keep making it without people just fucking sleeping through most of the stuff while Netflix autoplays the shit and gives you ratings. So that's where we're at. I don't know, man. I think that was a solid 12-pack of holiday horror films.
Oh yeah, I mean, some of those I hadn't even heard of. I mean, I had never heard of Who Slew Auntie Roo, and I had never heard of Blood. Well, I'd heard of Bloodbeat. I'd never heard of what was To All a Good Night. So that's pretty cool. That I haven't seen those three, and those are definitely ones I'd be going for.
Yeah, man. I mean, I've added at least 2 or 3 of these to my watch list as well because, again, I just haven't seen them. Maybe even like 4, but and then there's a couple of them that I really need to revisit because it's been a while. I think overall, not a bad Christmas marathon if you were going to put that together and do it as one, continuous thing by release date. Again, we skipped that Coffin Joe movie, but Coffin Joe is a whole thing in itself. You go do that research on your own. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Is there one of these, if you were to pick out of those 3, the one that you're the most anxious to check out or that you think looked like the best, what would it be? Or how would you rank, I guess, your 3 takeaways from it?
Well, I would say the one with the samurai was going to be the number 1 because that's just cool.
Bloodbeat. Yeah, that's just fucking rad.
But the Who Slew Auntie Roo would be next, definitely, because of how it is. And then the one left over at the end would be that.
Was it the Dorm That Dripped Blood or whatever?
Well, the Dorm Drip Blood should be a 4th one on there, so I put Dorm Drip Blood next, and the other one was that, I cannot think of the name of it, the Ghost of something or whatever it was.
The Ghost of something.
Not the Ghost of something. Good Night. To All Good Night. I just see that little ghostly figure in the poster, and I'm thinking about it. Yeah.
I think for me, of the ones that I haven't seen, that's the one that probably looks the best. And then next to that, I'd rank Don't Open Till Christmas. Really looking forward to checking that out.
Oh, it's really good.
And then, honestly, after that, I think Home for the Holidays is the other one that I'm most looking forward to. I think I had like 5 of them for me on this list because I don't think I've seen I definitely haven't seen Who Slew Auntie Roo. And then the Dorm That Dripped Blood, I can't confirm or deny if I've seen that because it could be on a multi-pack that I watched like wasted once. So we've came away with this with a lot to fucking unpack is basically the conclusion. And that's the point of it, right?
It is. There's some cool ones out there, and I've got a number of them that are from all over the place that are on my list of ones that normally I would not have thought to see. I mean, that's something. I've got an entire series this year, The Unusual Christmas Chronicles, which covers it. I mean, today we covered American Santa, which was it's a short, but it's great. Like, Santa Deathmatch.
How many of those episodes were you able to put out this month for The Unusual Christmas Chronicles?
A number of them now. I'd say I've had one for almost every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday of this month so far. So, and then I'll have, and the last episode will be Monday, but that's because it's Christmas. But Friday we got another episode, so it's going to be fun.
Indeed. And this has been fun, man. Thank you very much for coming on here for this. All those videos for The Unusual Christmas Chronicles can be found on the Septum Sin YouTube page, right?
Yep, they're on a playlist. So you just go to one of the playlists and you can hit them all in once if you want. They're very short.
As always, Brandon's link is in the description below. Septum Sin versus the World. Definitely check them out. We've got another episode of this coming up on Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you want to tune in and see the other 12 movies that we have for the holiday season and our thoughts on those, check it out. Hopefully you can join for a bit, Brandon. In any case, I'm super glad that I got to spend this evening with you, man. This was amazing. One of the best Christmas gifts I've got all season. So, and, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you, despite the nature of our outro song. So, cheers. Thanks for watching. I've been Mosley. You've been a bunch of sexy beasts. And this has been the Schlockaholics Yuletide Terror-thon. Until, Saturday.
Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck you. Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck all you motherfuckers. Fuck you.
So catchy.
It really is.